Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Now Review. This is episode number 51. And this one reviewing a Star Trek book. Star Trek Deep Space Nine Enigma Tales, written by Unina McCormick. Not the first Star Trek novel that this writer has done. Done several. It's done one of the books of the World Deep Space Nine series, Hollow Men, The Never-Ending Sacrifice, Brinkmanship, The Missing, the second book of The Fall, and that's it. So she's done. This writer has done several books. Yeah, it's a woman. Yep. Now this book is a book focused on Cardassia. Yeah, the entire book is on Cardassia itself, which I think is like the third or fourth book recently in the past 17 years where it's heavily focused on Cardassia. Where, even though it's called Deep Space Nine is referenced a couple times, but nobody leaves the planet Cardassia the whole time. Well, not until the end of the book, but yeah. But as for people who are actually from the actual franchise who appeared on the screen, only about 3 people have actually appeared on the screen who actually appeared in this novel. Garrick is the most obvious one because he's on the novel. He's on the cover, along with Dr. Pulaski and Nina Lang, who appear for at least one episode of the Deep Space Nine TV series. The actor who played Garrick, he was on there for at least 19 episodes. A good chunk of his appearances were actually in the final 3 seasons of the show, though in the first season he only appeared for one episode. Yep, and this takes place a year after the awesome miniseries The Fall, which he was elected. I kind of thought the previous book featured Garrick, where he's a focused character and gets elected, the Celestial. Basically, I thought it was kind of boring because of all the politics stuff. Just kind of basically turned me off from the book. And plus, since it was called Deep Space Next Generation, I would have thought a book called Next Generation should be about the Next Generation crew. Instead, it's basically a Garrick book. I have no problem with Garrick books at all. This is by far the third focus book he's had recently. The first one he had, I've not reviewed it, was a book called Snitch in Time, which is set right after the mini-war ended. And it's basically Garrick going back to Cardassia and rebuilding his late father's house. His late father in the series was Enigma Tain, who was the longest running director. He was the only director of the Obsidian Order to actually live long enough to retire. Yep, he is by far the only one actually to do that. Yep. He appeared roughly a handful of times in the series. He then basically died of heart failure when he was basically being held in the Minion POW camp. This was, of course, before the war broke out. This was, of course, during the events of season 5 of the show, when they found that the Mini are actually this was during that awesome 2-part of season 5, when the Federation found out that the Mini formed an alliance with the Cardassians. Yep. Now, stuff in the Mini War is referenced here along with the occupation. Yep. That's referencing here as well. There's also about a possibility of stuff basically of half-breed children, basically, or half Bajoran, half Cardassian, being sent to Cardassia and take part in its Project Enigma, which apparently is supposed to get rid of all their Bajoran DNA, which that sounds pretty painful. Also, Zial was referenced in here a couple times because they post her artwork. And a lot of people tend to praise her artwork in here, which I do appreciate the fact they reference her in here, because she was actually the one character who actually fell in love with Garrick. And here's the thing about Zial. She's the illegitimate daughter of the main villain of Deep Space Nine, Gul Dukat. Yep. She is the half Cardassian, half Bajoran daughter of Dukat. She was a recurring character. I think she started back, I'm trying to think, I think it was in season 3 she showed up. And she was around for a pretty good period of time until she got killed off about part way into season 6. Yeah, when they had where Damar killed Zial. And Damar himself is referenced a couple times in here. And of course, Garrick's actions, basically, when he was part of the same. Apparently, his actions are part of the Obsidian Order is publicly known, and people have forgiven him for it. And it's interesting, though, that all the characters from Deep Space Nine to be elected to an actual position, it's Garrick. Which makes him the first one since, I think it was Hikaru Sulu, to be elected to an actual position. Because nobody else in Star Trek has ever done this. In the case of Worf, the only thing he did outside of Star Trek, outside of Starfleet, was become the Federation ambassador to Kronos, which he served for 4 years and handed off to his son Alexander. But Garrick is the first one from Deep Space Nine to actually do this. Well, he's the only character from Deep Space Nine. Worf also did this as well. Basically, even though he was elected, he was appointed. But he's technically, even though he's a recurring character, but he was an awesome character in the series. The actor portrayed Andrew something. I had to look him up here. But the guy himself is a great actor. Oh yeah, I think it's Andrew Robinson, I think the name of the actor is who played Garrick. And he did a fantastic job. I personally have only seen outside the makeup once. Yes, outside of this really good makeup they did on him when he played Garrick. The only time I've seen him when he's not playing Garrick was actually the first Hellraiser movie, where you play the father of the main character of that film. Well, not Pinhead, of course. The woman. Yeah. And I realized, though, he's definitely kind of tall, and he's pretty thin for a guy. Yeah, he's actually one of 2 DS9 actors who actually appeared in the Hellraiser movies. The other, of course, is the actress who played Jadzia Dax. She appeared in the 3rd movie. Yep. Yeah, there's that. But, and I gotta praise the writer for doing a great job making Garrick an interesting character. He's actually one of the 2 primary focus characters in this novel. I mean, Garrick is the obvious one. The other, of course, is Dr. Pulaski. Yeah, she's in here as a good supporting character, and she does get her own time in here, because the book is split between the 2 of them. And there's also a murder investigation. There's a little bit of time for Natima Lang, who is a professor, who was also leading the dissident movement. To constant reference here. Okay, Dad. Anyways, yeah. So there was this like fake file. There was this file basically implied that Neil Lang basically, what was his name? Natima Lang was involved with the Project Enigma. And it turns out later on, basically, that the files were actually fake. I had to spoil that. But Julian Bashir does appear in this novel a couple times. I won't spoil what happened in his second appearance novel, but his first appearance, he's visited by Dr. Pulaski, and she gives him a teddy bear as a gift. Basically, I've got to spoil this because this happened at the end of Section 31 Control, which was the previous DS9 novel to come up before this one. Apparently, if I remember at the end of it, Dr. Bashir was knocked into a semi-coma, in a way, where he looks like he's wide awake, but he's in total shock. He's in kind of a coma ever since he took down Section 31. He basically is one of the people involved with the takedown of Section 31, finally. Yeah, basically wrapping up a recurring plot thread that's been going on since the end of the DS9 TV show, which I appreciate the writer of the novel actually doing that. But yeah, one really amazing novel. I do highly recommend it. Basically, people are fans of mainly Deep Space Nine. If you're a fan of Next Generation, and even if you weren't a fan of Dr. Pulaski on screen, she's more tolerable here than she was in the actual TV series. No offense to the actors who played her on the show, but I don't necessarily blame her for the sort of hatred, basically, for people have for her. I blame the writing for Season 2, and some people might agree with me on that. But Garrick always had good writing at Deep Space Nine. Yep, he probably got the best lines in the whole show. He was always the most interesting one, and he actually was sort of a civilian. Basically, his profession on Deep Space Nine, he was a tailor, and he was very good at it. And there's references in here how he helped. He's done a lot of really good things in the 1 year he's been the Celestion. Basically the president of the Cardassian Union. He's done a lot of really good work for the Cardassian Union. And I'm not sure exactly how old Garrick is supposed to be, but it's implied he might be, and this is my personal guess, he might be in his 50s. I have no idea. I've never looked up to see exactly how old Garrick is. He doesn't really look that much he doesn't look that much like an old man, especially in this picture here, but that could be chalked up to probably makeup, but his age was never revealed on screen. A lot of the basically human actors, I think even Keira Nerys basically implied basically how old she is, but Garrick, never feel exactly how old he is. Yeah, that's one of the biggest mysteries about Garrick is his age. That's my personal opinion anyways. I mean, many of his mysteries have been unveiled, like who his father is. I mean, for a little while, people thought his name just simply Garrick, and it turns out that his first name is actually Elam. Yeah, his full name is Elam Garrick. Guess was referenced in an episode where he activated a chip in his head and basically he was causing him pain. So basically, Dr. Bashir went to go visit Navarrete in his first of 3 appearances on the show, where he visited him and he talked to him for a little while. He didn't exactly arrest him. Basically, he knows who Dr. Bashir was because he did his research, obviously, because it was his sitting order. He heard about Garrick, and he asked him about who was Garrick's friend Elam, and he said, Elam is Garrick's first name. That's how we found out about basically Garrick's first name. You have to find out the episode that was, but that was pre-Dominion War stuff. I think that was back in season... I'm trying to think. That might have been season... No, it wasn't 2. It might have been season... It could have been season 2 or 3. Yeah, it was one of Garrick's early appearances. It wasn't his first appearance per se, but it was one of his early appearances that they introduced Navarrete. You didn't find out he was his father until Navarrete's last physical appearance in the show. I don't know who the actor was who played Navarrete, but he did a fantastic job. He was very brutal, and there was a joke. Basically, Garrick says like, "Oh yeah, he let your famous waistline get away from you because the guy put on weight." When he ran into him in Navarrete's second appearance in the show, when basically he realized because he remember Navarrete used to be pretty thin and pretty proud of his waistline, and then he meets up again and he put on some weight since he retired. Yeah, there's that. But this one amazing novel. There's a couple of different Cardassian characters appearing here. One is sort of a young man who escorts Dr. Pulaski right now. The reason why Dr. Pulaski is on Cardassia Prime is because receiving a medal. They reference it many times in the novel. And there's also a murder investigation. There's also a murder going on. It's kind of like a crime drama in a way, mixed with politics. But it's in Star Trek. But it's in the style of what you expect for a typical episode you expect for Deep Space Nine. It has the flavor of a typical Deep Space Nine episode, but with a spin basically we're focused in one planet, the entire novel, and it's set in the present day stuff, not in some different time period, and there's no time jumps in here. There's references to stuff in the past, and also in between every single chapter, there is this letter that Garrick sends to basically Dr. Bashir, and they're not sent. It appears at the end of every single chapter. There's like a dozen chapters in this novel. And this novel is roughly like 350 pages long. Pretty good length for a Deep Space Nine novel. Excuse me, but it's not the longest Deep Space Nine novel I've read. There's a couple of them I've read that were 400 pages long. I think it was one of the Mission Gamma 4-book doxology. And I think it was like one other book I could think of. Actually, this one now, they list off the historian's note at the beginning that this takes place in late 2386. I haven't figured out exactly when in 2386 just yet, but now as I had so much time passes by in this whole book, I would say probably a couple weeks. That's my personal guess, anyways. Couple weeks. It feels like a couple weeks, and apparently Garrick has got 2 residences: the official residence where he is supposed to live, and his private residence where basically he lives in his father's old home, which he has every legal right to do because, well, with his father passing. And apparently his maid, it's implied basically toward the end of the series that apparently she knew all along that Navarrete was his father, and no one knew about this until Navarrete when he just about died, that he was Garrick's father. Yep, which is actually pretty amazing. I love the development they gave Garrick in the series, and this novel does give him some pretty good development. There's also one guy in here who's a doctor, who's a good friend of his. It's implied that they're lovers, which I'm like, are they saying Garrick is gay? Or at least bisexual? They don't explicitly say it, but it's implied that he might be bisexual. I think from what I've heard, it's been implied for years that Garrick is bisexual, but they've never officially stated or not. But yeah, there's that. Such an amazing novel. I won't spoil the ending of basically who the murderer is. You have to read the book and find out who it is. Apparently, he's a Starfleet operative. Who apparently... Now, I won't list his name. But you get to find out who he is in the novel. Apparently, he's part of Starfleet intelligence who's been there since before the Dominion War broke out. Yep. That's simply the way it is. Alright? So, I'm going to give this novel a 10 out of 10. It's an amazing novel, and I highly recommend it to people who are fans of Star Trek, Elam Garrick, and fans of Deep Space Nine. Despite the fact Deep Space Nine does not make a physical appearance in this novel at all. Yeah, oh, and I should point this out though before I go. This particular setting right here in the cover, like the background, this has frequently been shown whenever they show Cardassia. It's this very image that they keep showing a lot. Whenever they cut to the Cardassia, they show this very background a lot. So this is a commonly reused background they used on the show. Whenever they went to Kronos, they always showed. A lot of the time, it was the main hall where the council met. That's mainly what they showed a lot of the time whenever they do background shots, or to do a close up of the symbol of the Klingon Empire. There's that. Yeah, it's like basically because I've watched the episodes of Deep Space Nine many times. That's why I'm familiar with that image on this cover. All right. But I had to point that out. As far as I know, despite the fact they did have Cardassians in the Next Generation series, which is the series that introduced them, they never showed that image. That image was always commonly associated with Deep Space Nine. Alright? So, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is episode 52, and it's definitely going to be a Star Wars novel, and it's going to be about a character who appears in the current trilogy. You'll find out who that is in the next episode, when I finish reading the novel. I just started it today. Alright? But to see you on the next episode. Bye.